It was just past 9 a.m. in Spartanburg, South Carolina. The sun was out, clouds low, and the Chevron gas station on East Blackstock Road was waking up with caffeine-deprived locals. Cars lined the pumps. A red box machine blinked under the morning glare. A sleek black SUV rolled in, smooth as a whisper, low-profile government plates catching the sunlight. The driver stepped out, calm and precise. A tall black man in his 40s, sharp charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. Just presence. He moved like someone who knew exactly where he was going and had been there 100 times before. He wasn't rushing. He didn't fumble for his wallet. No snacks, just coffee. One cup, black. Inside the store, he nodded once to the cashier, paid in silence, and stepped back outside holding the cup like he'd done it every day for a decade. A thin wire peeked from his right ear, barely visible, and the quick glint of a badge on his waistband shimmered when the wind moved his jacket. Subtle, deliberate. That's when the sheriff's vehicle swerved in. It came in hard, tires crunching on the concrete, crossing the parking line like it had somewhere to be. Behind the wheel was Ray Denslow, broad chest, buzz cut, Oakley-style aviators on, even though the sun hadn't fully broken through. His boots hit the pavement with the kind of urgency that demanded attention. He didn't pause. "You with that vehicle?" he barked, pointing at the SUV before the man could even sip his coffee. The black man turned, steady. "Yes, sir." "Keys." The officer moved closer, one hand hovering near his sidearm. He didn't ask what was going on, didn't explain why he stopped, just took position. "You got registration? What's your name?" The man raised one eyebrow. His tone remained even. "Sir, I'm on official duty. I can show you my—" "I asked for your name," Denslow snapped, voice rising like a warning shot. Behind the sunglasses, his eyes were twitching, locked on the man's every move. People near the pumps began to glance over. A guy at pump 4 froze with his phone halfway out of his pocket. A mother pushing her stroller stopped mid-step. "My name is Deputy Chief Quentin Dre," he said calmly. "United States Secret Service." Denslow snorted. "Everybody's got a story. That your cousin's car? Your brother's? You lifted off someone?" "I can reach for my credentials. Slowly. They're in my left jacket pocket." Denslow took one step back and pulled his gun. A gasp came from pump 2. "Hands where I can see them!" he shouted, gun now aimed directly at Quentin's chest. Quentin didn't blink. He didn't argue. He didn't flinch. He bent down slowly, set the coffee cup on the ground, and then knelt, fingers laced behind his head. Still calm, still steady. "I am not a threat. My badge is in my left inside pocket," he said, voice just loud enough for others to hear. Denslow chuckled. "You think you're in a movie?" He circled behind him, keeping the gun raised. "What? You got backup in that SUV? Recording this with your boys?" Quentin said nothing. A teenage boy near the ice machine raised his phone and hit record. His friend whispered, "Is he really Secret Service?" The officer moved like he owned the lot, his boots scraping asphalt, the weapon still locked on his target. Quentin didn't move a muscle. Then Denslow leaned forward and yanked open the SUV's driver door. No drugs, no weapons. Just a government laptop docked to the console, a Homeland Security folder on the seat, and an ID clipped inside the glove box. He froze. Just a second. That hesitation. "You just opened a secured federal vehicle without probable cause," Quentin said clearly. Denslow's face twisted. "You just impersonated a federal officer?" Another car rolled in behind them, another black SUV, tinted windows, quiet engine. Quentin stayed kneeling. Denslow didn't notice the new arrival yet, but someone inside that vehicle definitely saw everything. And they weren't laughing. The phones were already out. The crowd was building. A man near the air pump whispered, "He really pulled a gun on him. Over coffee?" The tension now wasn't loud. It was tight, like a thread pulled too far. And Quentin, the man in the suit, didn't say another word. Because the truth was about to speak for him. Hours before the confrontation, Quentin Dre had driven through the quiet outskirts of Spartanburg, the kind of place that rarely made national news. His hands rested easy on the wheel, mind already cycling through the day ahead. Briefings, protocols, a regional security audit. Nothing out of the ordinary. He had served 3 presidents, flown across oceans, protected diplomats, heads of state, high-risk whistleblowers. He'd once de-escalated a bomb threat at an international summit without raising his voice. His calm wasn't an act. It was muscle memory. But this morning felt different. It wasn't the assignment. It wasn't the route. It was the pause. That moment he chose to stop for coffee. One stop. One cup. One decision to blend into normal life for just 5 minutes before suiting back up and walking into another federal facility. He parked quietly, knowing most people wouldn't notice the plates or the earpiece. That was the goal. Low profile. Move like you don't matter. Until it matters. Inside the Chevron store, he moved with intent. He didn't scroll his phone, didn't chat with the clerk. Just black coffee, exact change, and a silent nod. He was used to not being noticed. Growing up in Alabama, that skill had kept him alive. Even back then, when he wasn't wearing a suit, wasn't on anyone's security detail, he learned how to walk through certain neighborhoods with his head down, tone measured, presence unthreatening. He learned that calm was survival. It never left him. At 16, a cop told him he fit the description of someone who'd robbed a corner store. He was walking back from school, backpack full of books, hands in plain view. That time, his mother showed up before things got worse. But he remembered the look in the officer's eyes. Same look he saw this morning. There was no warning when the patrol SUV pulled in hard. No polite knock. No routine check. Just an assumption. A sharp, heavy decision made in the space of a glance. Quentin had been trained to recognize threat posture. Denslow didn't walk like a man doing his job. He moved like a man already convinced. Even as he stood outside the store with nothing in his hands but coffee, he saw it in the officer's jaw, clenched, loaded, like he wanted a reason. But Quentin also knew something Denslow didn't. Silence could be louder than shouting. He didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for his ID. He gave him the chance to de-escalate. He waited for the question that never came. He listened to the assumption being carved into stone with every aggressive word. And still, he stayed calm. Because Quentin knew what was really on the line wasn't just his name or his job. It was the story they'd tell after. If he twitched, if he moved wrong, if he dared to be human for half a second too soon, he'd be the headline, not the hero. So he did what he'd done 100 times in high-security zones and foreign war rooms. He watched. He read the angles. He played the long game. Let the man shout. Let the gun stay drawn. Let the crowd gather. Because the truth wasn't in his voice. It was in his stillness. And soon that would be impossible to ignore. The coffee cup sat alone on the pavement, steam still curling from the lid as if nothing was wrong. Quentin didn't move, his knees pressed against the cold asphalt, fingers laced behind his head. Calm. But everything around him was starting to shake. Officer Ray Denslow circled him like prey, his weapon locked and aimed, voice sharp with that twitch of pride that comes when someone feels untouchable. "You think that badge makes you above the law?" he sneered. "You flash some silver, and I'm just supposed to salute?" Quentin didn't speak. Not yet. A few feet away, a mother ushered her child back into the car. A teenager near the ice machine whispered, "Yo, he's Secret Service." "Why's the cop aiming at him?" Another bystander hit record. The officer's boots echoed across the lot, crunching gravel and tension. He wasn't asking questions anymore. He was delivering judgment. "Stand up and I'll drop you," he barked. "You think I haven't seen fake badges before? You people always got an excuse." That phrase, "you people," it landed like a slap, not just to Quentin, but to every phone screen now catching the scene from shaky hands. Quentin breathed in, slow, his voice steady, even from his knees. "My credentials are inside my jacket, left pocket. I am Deputy Chief Quentin Dre, United States Secret Service." Denslow chuckled low, almost amused. "Impersonating a federal officer's a felony. You just stacked your charges." He didn't look like he was bluffing. He looked like he believed every word. Then he did something worse. He turned toward the black SUV and yanked open the driver's side door. Inside, a government-issued laptop docked to the center console, tactical gear sealed in cases, a federal access card clipped inside the glove box. He hesitated. Just a second. Quentin's voice cut through that hesitation. Calm. Measured. "You just conducted an illegal search of a secured federal vehicle, without a warrant, without cause." Denslow stiffened. "You think I care?" he muttered. "This is my jurisdiction. I make the calls." A ripple of murmurs spread through the lot. A man at pump 5 raised his phone higher. Another whispered, "Did he just say that on camera?" Still kneeling, Quentin tilted his head just slightly, locking eyes with the officer behind the shades. "And now you're being recorded doing it." That's when it shifted. A second black SUV turned slowly into the station, rolling to a stop near the air pump. Sleek, silent, tinted. Denslow didn't notice. He was too busy pacing. But the woman inside that SUV did. She stepped out fast. Tall, sharp posture, black tactical blazer, brown skin. No hesitation in her steps. Earpiece in place. Badge already in hand. "Dry status?" she called out, eyes scanning the scene. Quentin didn't move. "Non-compliant local officer. Drawn weapon. Unauthorized search of a secured vehicle. I have not resisted." She turned sharply toward Denslow. "You want to explain what the hell you're doing?" Denslow blinked, gun still out. "Who are you?" "Senior Agent Kendra Moss," she snapped, holding her ID high. "United States Secret Service. That man is my superior officer." The moment cracked. Slightly. But Denslow's pride didn't break. "He claimed to be Secret Service," he barked. "I wasn't about to take that at face value." "You pulled a weapon on a federal officer," she said flatly. "That's not doubt. That's a felony." It was then another SUV pulled in. Then another. Agents stepped out fast, suits tight, alert. No guns drawn, but no smiles either. Quentin stayed on his knees, but now the air was changing. He wasn't alone anymore. The crowd wasn't guessing anymore. And Denslow wasn't in control anymore. "You people don't roll through here thinking you get special treatment," Denslow growled, trying to reclaim space. "I did what I thought was right." "You thought wrong," said one of the male agents, "and now you're the subject of a federal misconduct investigation." A voice from the crowd shouted, "I got it all on video." Another yelled, "That cop had the gun on him the whole time." Phones pointed, hands gestured, evidence gathered in real time. It wasn't just humiliation anymore, it was exposure. Denslow looked around, finally seeing the faces, the lenses, the federal agents closing in. He stammered, voice suddenly thin. "I didn't mean anything by it. I had reasonable suspicion." "No," Agent Moss interrupted. "You had bias." And with that, the silence hit harder than any siren. Quentin lifted his head. "I was getting coffee," he said softly. "You decided I didn't belong. That's all this was." Denslow had nothing left to say. Not to the crowd, not to the phones, not to the agents, because everyone had already seen enough. Quentin remained still, the dust on his knees clinging to his tailored pants. The air was thicker now, not louder, just heavier, like everyone knew something serious had shifted. The second SUV rolled to a quiet stop by the air pump, and from inside stepped two agents. No sunglasses, no drawn weapons, just sharp suits, sharp eyes, and sharper presence. The man in front, older, gray at the temples, moved with deliberate calm, the kind that came from knowing exactly how much authority he carried. He walked up to Quentin first. "Deputy Chief Dre, are you injured?" "No, sir," Quentin replied, his voice steady. "We're rolling body cams. Civilian witnesses are recording. Local law enforcement failed to verify credentials before drawing a weapon. Confirm?" "Confirmed," Quentin said, still on his knees. The agent gave a short nod, then turned to Kendra. "He can stand." "You're clear, sir," she added. Quentin rose slowly, adjusted his jacket like he was stepping into a boardroom instead of standing on concrete where a gun had just been pointed at his chest. Denslow still stood nearby, gun still partially raised, like he didn't know where to aim anymore, or who to be. "You don't get to just walk in here like you own the place," he said. "I did what I thought was right." "You thought wrong," said the agent with gray temples. "And now you're being processed." "Processed?" Denslow scoffed. "You're serious?" "We're not asking," the agent replied calmly. "This stop was unauthorized. The weapon draw was unjustified. You tampered with a federal vehicle. You're under administrative detention pending full review." Denslow blinked twice. His fingers twitched toward his belt again. Instinct, maybe. Or habit. Two agents stepped closer. No weapons drawn. Just presence. Enough to stop the motion dead. "Don't make this worse," Kendra said, her voice clipped, direct. "You've already said too much." That was the moment it finally registered. Not just in his mind, but on his face. The look of someone who thought they were in control, until they weren't. He looked around. The crowd had grown. Phones were everywhere. Some were streaming live. One teenager whispered, "He's getting arrested, right?" Slowly, Denslow unclipped his holster and handed his firearm to the lead agent. "Grip first." The agent took it without a word. "Hands where we can see them," the command came, and Denslow obeyed. He tried to keep his chin up, but it was slipping. shoulders tight, jaw clenched, pride turning to panic. Quentin stepped aside. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't even angry. Just steady. A man who knew the truth was finally out in the open. "You good, sir?" Kendra asked. Quentin gave a slight nod. "Better now." Another SUV pulled in. This one unmarked, but it didn't matter. Homeland Security was in motion. Denslow's world was shrinking with every second. "I didn't mean it," he said again, his voice cracking. He looked suspicious. "No," Quentin said quietly. "I looked black. That's what you saw." A man near the pump yelled, "Yo, I got the whole thing. You want it?" "We'll want every copy," the agent replied. "Our team will be in touch." "Are y'all taking him in now?" someone asked. "No," the agent said. "Not yet. We're processing it right here." Two black sedans pulled in. Federal backup. Press vans wouldn't be far behind. Denslow looked like a man deflating in real time. No handcuffs, but worse, no control, no shield, no backup. The badge on his chest wasn't saving him today. "You'll sit in that vehicle while we complete initial documentation," the agent ordered. Denslow hesitated, then walked to the unmarked sedan without another word. Inside one of the SUVs, Quentin sat with Kendra and the other agents. Body cam footage was uploading. Witness videos were pouring in. Statements were being collected in real time. Rachel, a Homeland Security liaison, typed rapidly into a tablet. 5 separate videos, 3 with clean audio, no cuts, no editing. Kendra looked over at Quentin. "You want to go on record today?" "No press," he said. "Not now." "You're already the story," she replied. "Your name's trending. Every major outlet wants a quote." "Let them wait," he said. "The truth doesn't need a headline yet." Across the lot, Denslow sat in the back of the federal vehicle, not cuffed, but visibly shaken. The crowd was still watching, but no one shouted. No one cursed. They didn't have to. The silence said it all. He judged a black man in a suit, and ended up surrounded by the very system he thought he controlled. The punishment hadn't started, but the fall already had. The gas station wasn't just a scene anymore. It was a headline. By noon, local news vans were circling the area, their cameras pointed where the confrontation had happened just hours earlier. The video, the one shot by the teenager near the ice machine, had already crossed 1.2 million views on Twitter. Facebook Reels carried it further. TikTok had turned it into a movement. Quentin Dre. Federal while black. Coffee while black. Badge and black. The hashtags hit hard and fast, and so did the opinions. A black man gets a gun pulled on him for having a badge. What else is new? One tweet said. This is why we film everything, another read. My nephew wants to be in law enforcement, but this is what I have to prepare him for. It wasn't just a bad moment anymore. It was the moment, one that couldn't be walked back. Inside the federal SUV, Quentin remained composed. He scrolled briefly through the trending topics, not reacting. This wasn't the first time a black man had gone viral for being wrongfully targeted. He just never imagined it would be him, not with his title, not with his record. "Statement?" Rachel asked. Quentin didn't look up. "Let it build. We respond when the world's listening, not when they're just watching." Kendra looked toward the window, where reporters were starting to gather. "They're going to want blood." "They'll get the truth," Quentin said. "That's stronger." Across town, the Spartanburg Police Department was already under siege. Phones ringing, emails flooding, protests scheduled. Denslow's personnel file wasn't sealed anymore. It was being dissected post by post. 8 civilian complaints in the last 3 years. 3 use-of-force incidents under internal review. No suspensions, no official consequences. Until now. The mayor's office issued a no comment. The police chief claimed to be shocked by the officer's actions, but the people weren't buying it. "He wasn't rogue," a local pastor said at a press gathering. "He was normal. That's the problem." Back at the gas station, the crowd had mostly cleared, but not the impact. A small shrine of coffee cups and handwritten notes started forming near the red box machine. One note read, "You stayed calm so others could stay alive." Another, "Badge or not, no black man should have to kneel to be believed." In a nearby school, a 7th-grade civics teacher played the video for his class. A young black student raised his hand and asked, would they have believed him if he was white? The room fell silent. At a local barber shop, the video looped on the wall TV. One barber muttered, "That man should be getting a damn medal, not a muzzle." Inside the Federal Command Center, agents were reviewing every second of footage. The sound bites alone were damning. "You people. Fake badge. I make the calls." Each word was now evidence. "He's already been placed on leave," one of the agents confirmed. "Internal Affairs is processing everything." "No," Quentin corrected. "He wasn't placed on leave. He was protected for years. What's happening now is correction, not punishment." "You want a public inquiry?" Rachel asked. "I want acknowledgement," Quentin replied, "and change. This can't end with a headline." The agent with gray temples leaned forward. "We can push for a congressional review." Quentin looked outside again. Another car was pulling in. A young woman stepped out. She wasn't media. She didn't speak. Just walked over to the spot where he'd been on his knees and placed a small American flag beside the coffee cup still sitting there. It wasn't about a man anymore. It was about a pattern. And today, someone with power, real power, had been caught abusing it. Not behind closed doors, not under a corrupted system, but in public, on camera, and in front of a crowd that would never unsee it. 3 days later, the community center auditorium was packed beyond capacity. Rows of folding chairs were filled with residents, students, veterans, church leaders, people who had never met Quentin Dre, but felt like they knew him now. Some held signs. Others carried small American flags. A few came just to listen, to understand what dignity under pressure really looked like. There was no podium, just a microphone stand, and when Quentin stepped up, the room went completely still. He wasn't in a suit today. Just a black button-down and slacks. No badge showing. No title announced. Just him. "I didn't come here to give a speech," he began, voice calm, low. "I came here to speak the truth." No applause. Just silence. The kind that waits to hear something real. "3 days ago I stopped for coffee," he said. "I wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't hiding anything. I was doing what millions of Americans do every morning." He paused. "But my skin color made my intentions a question. My calmness made me suspicious. My badge wasn't enough. My voice wasn't enough. My humanity wasn't enough." A young woman in the crowd blinked fast, trying not to cry. "I was trained to stay calm under pressure," he continued, "but that day, I stayed calm so I wouldn't become a funeral." That line? It hit hard. No one clapped. No one dared break the weight of it. I knelt on the ground, not because I was weak, but because I knew that standing tall in that moment might have cost me everything. He scanned the crowd slowly. And if I, as a high-ranking federal officer, could be reduced to you people in 5 seconds, what chance does a black teenager have with no badge, no title, and no camera? Whispers ran through the rows. Heads nodded. One man lowered his cap over his eyes, wiping a tear. Quentin's voice didn't shake. It didn't shout. It just told the truth. "I'm not angry," he said, "because anger burns quick. But I am tired, and I know I'm not alone." From the back, someone murmured, "You're not." I want to thank the people who recorded, the bystanders who didn't look away, the agents who stepped in, and most of all, the community who turned one moment of racism into a movement for change. He looked toward the second row, where his niece sat clutching her sketch pad. "She asked me yesterday if it's safe to wear her hair out in public," he said softly, "because she saw someone mistake confidence for threat." A wave of discomfort moved through the room. Real. Honest. Necessary. I told her this. People will judge you before you speak, but speak anyway. People will doubt you before you move, but move anyway. And when they try to make you feel small, stand anyway. He stepped back from the mic. No music, no cue, just a pause, and then one clap, then another, and another, until the entire room rose to its feet, not like a standing ovation, but like a quiet act of solidarity. They weren't clapping for a speech. They were clapping because they saw something rare. Truth without filter. Dignity without performance. Justice without shouting. Outside, reporters waited. Headlines were already being written. But inside, in that moment, it wasn't about headlines. It was about healing. And Quentin, the man who knelt without fear, had just stood tall for everyone who never got the chance. Ray Denslow was suspended within 24 hours of the incident. By the end of the week, he was stripped of his badge, pending formal misconduct charges under federal review. No press conference, no apologies. Just a quiet memo from the department, calling it a regrettable misunderstanding. But the world knew better. The videos were undeniable. The transcripts were damning. And the silence from the police department only made it worse. He tried to defend himself online, posted once on a private forum, claiming he felt threatened. But screenshots leaked. And in every thread, people replied with the same thing. "You pulled a gun on a federal officer because he was black." There was no coming back from that. Meanwhile, Quentin returned to work. Not with noise, not with revenge, but with resolve. He stepped into briefings, dealt with press requests, declined most of them. He wasn't interested in fame. He wasn't selling a story. He was building one. 2 weeks after the incident, he stood in front of a class of new recruits at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. The room was full of fresh faces, some nervous, some excited, all watching him like he was larger than life. He didn't tell them about the gas station. He didn't mention Denslow's name. Instead, he said, "There will be moments when silence is louder than your badge. Moments when staying calm doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise." He paused. "You will be judged for the uniform you wear. But if you're black, Latino, or any shade outside their comfort, you'll be judged even when you're off duty. That's the reality. Learn how to live above it, not under it." The class listened, not blinking, not breathing too loud. Later that day, one recruit walked up to him privately. He was young, barely 22, and had a photo of the gas station scene saved in his phone. "My little brother was scared to wear his ROTC pin to school after seeing that," he said quietly. "But after your speech, he put it back on." Quentin looked him in the eye. "That pin doesn't make you safe," he said, "but it reminds you who you are, and that matters more than what they see." Outside, the sun was low. Another day ending. Another truth passed forward. He didn't need justice to be loud. He just needed it to last. Back in Spartanburg, the gas station returned to normal. The cups, the signs, the small flag, all quietly collected and archived by a local activist group. But the memory remained. Every now and then, someone would stop there, grab a black coffee, and pause by the corner where Quentin once knelt. Not to mourn, but to remember that calm isn't weakness, and power isn't volume. It's what you do. When the world refuses to see you, but you stand anyway.